So why are healthy plant-based diets so protective? Well, plant-based dietary patterns actually maximize protective dietary components such as fiber and phytochemicals and antioxidants and plant sterols and pre and probiotics, while minimizing potentially pathogenic dietary components like saturated fat and trans fatty acids, refined carbohydrates, new 5-GC, TMAO and its precursors, chemical contaminants, pro-oxidants, and endotoxins, which are found mainly in animal products and or highly processed foods. So not only do plant-based diets protect against many chronic diseases, but they actually also provide a very safe and powerful treatment option, in some cases driving these diseases into remission. And here's where I'd like to share just a couple of my own personal experiences in putting lifestyle medicine into practice to show you what is possible. And I'll just share a little bit about my work in the Marshall Islands and the work that I did in Lithuania. And I want to tell you that I'm actually returning to the Marshall Islands in a few days to do an in-service for the staff there and a talk on lifestyle medicine for the president and staff. And so we'll be really excited. My son is coming with me to be back in the Marshall Islands. The last time I was there was 2017. So this will be an exciting trip. So for those of you that aren't familiar with the Marshall Islands, they are somewhere between Hawaii and Australia, very, very remote in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, just above the equator, directly north of New Zealand by about 3,500 miles. And the Marshall Islands has declared a state of emergency where type 2 diabetes is concerned. They have among the highest prevalence of type 2 diabetes and the highest death rates from diabetes globally. In 2021, the prevalence was 25.1% in people ages 20 to 79, and that was actually down from over 30% previously. About half of all the surgeries on the islands are due to amputations due to diabetes. So you might wonder if diabetes was a problem in the past. And in fact, a century ago, diabetes was pretty much unheard of in the Marshall Islands. People were slim, they were physically active, and they lived off the land. So what did they eat? Well, traditionally, they ate whatever they could gather on the islands, which was coconut and a few green leaves, breadfruit, bananas, pandanus, whatever plants they could grow and or naturally grew there. And of course, whatever they could collect from the ocean. So fish and seafood were a big part of their traditional diet. And of course, they had to work very hard to get these foods. So they were getting a lot of physical activity. So what do people eat today? Well, today there are more people on the main island. So Majuro, for example, the island might sustain 500 to 1,000 people. Well, 30,000 people live there. They're quite poor. There's not a lot of employment. And so foods must be transported into them. So a lot of these foods are non-perishable foods and highly processed foods. So just to run through some of these pictures, on the left, upper left, this little girl has a can of Pepsi and a popsicle in her hand. This is 6:30 in the morning. So essentially she's eating breakfast. The schoolgirl in the middle picture is eating rice and chicken. And this is a very typical school meal. The favorite snack, you can see the ramen noodles here, of children is dry ramen noodles. They crack open the package, eat them. Sometimes I've seen kids sprinkling Kool-Aid powder on top before eating them for flavoring, and sometimes even sprinkling Ajinomoto on top, which is pure MSG. The meal on the right is a meal that was handed out at a funeral. You can see a white rice and meat, a white bread ham sandwich, some white soda biscuits, and a donut. The picture in the bottom left is of a first birthday party. And you can just see the big bins of meat, mostly processed meat. There's chicken, there's some sort of lunch meat and wieners, and then of course a lot of white rice. The main beverage that people drink is called luau, and you can see this as a concentrate that's mixed with water, but it's essentially number one ingredient is high fructose corn syrup, and then colors and flavors and so on. Spam is a fairly major staple in the diet as well. So several years ago, this was back in 2007, actually, I was part of a randomized team that did a randomized control trial in the Marshall Islands. We had 5 overlapping cohorts with intervention versus control groups, and we did 3 months of very intensive lifestyle medicine. And we used all 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine: a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet, and exercise, daily exercise, walking after meals, and an exercise class every day. And we did a lot of education about sleep and stress management and support and addiction control and so forth. And the diet was very high in fiber, about 40 plus grams a day. It was a whole food, plant-based diet. It was high in phytochemicals and antioxidants. It had minimal highly processed foods, if any. And it was very low in fat, about 20, I shouldn't say very low in fat, it was low in fat, about 20% of calories, most of the fat coming from nuts and seeds. And so our results paper actually is slated to be out this year, which you may find funny, but it was a long process. We had some challenges. But essentially, in the first 2 weeks, we saw a drop of fasting blood sugar of about 71 milligrams per deciliter. And by 12 weeks, it was about 48 milligrams per deciliter. It wasn't quite as good as the first 2 weeks, just because at the 12-point mark, people were preparing their own food, whereas in the first 2 weeks, all the food that they consumed came from us. Oh, and before I continue, I want to tell you that the investigator in this project, you can see the red circle is myself and Dr. John Kelly. And Dr. John Kelly was actually the founding president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And then you can see a drop of close to 2 points in A1C at 12 weeks. And HSCRP, which is our measure of inflammation, dropped by 1.2 points. So pretty stellar results, and remission was achieved probably in about 30% of participants. And the participants told us over and over again they had less pain, less disability, they could think more clearly, they had better sleep, and as you can imagine, they had much less constipation. They probably went from about 7 or 8 grams of fiber a day to 40 grams of fiber a day. So it was really quite a change.